welcome to this. Lots of content to get through today. Thanks for telling me my mic was muted. Whoever's watching, I see there's one viewer there. Nobody told me. So, all right, now we're going to dive in. Got to live and learn, I guess. So a super heavy day. Started with Jeff's modern way to own your day. These are 18 bullet points. All of the points were amazing, but 3 of them really popped out to me. So I'll focus on those. Number 1 is look at your time as ROT. So this is return on time. You're going to find your average dollar per hour. And then you're going to go ahead and do a time audit. And the time audit strategy is for one whole day. You're going to set an alarm every 9 minutes. You're going to write down what you're doing when that alarm goes off. And this is based around the schedule that he pulls out later on in the day for us. And he just wants to make sure, you want to make sure you're sticking to that schedule. And if you're not, then you're going to recognize that by doing the time audit. When you do your time audit, after you get these list of things that you've been doing throughout the day, you're going to go through them and you're going to assign $1 sign, $2 signs, or $3 signs. $1 sign is a less than average dollar per hour. $2 signs is going to be equal to your dollar per hour, and $3 signs is going to be greater than. So the question you're going to ask yourself at the end of this day is, are you increasing your dollar per hour amount? And if you are, great. If you're reducing it, now it's time to make some assessments, and you're going to try to make sure that you are building out a job description for dollar per hour. So you're going to want to get rid of some of that stuff. So delegate and eliminate whatever you can to get into, when you're operating throughout the day, that you are increasing your $3 signs. Obviously, you guys couldn't hear me for the first part, so I'm going to throw this one in here. If you are wanting to be on the REConnect podcast, what we're doing is basically giving a free coaching session to you. We're going to help you find your core purpose and be able to get you to a point where then you can start building some messaging around that core purpose and helping your clientele and creating more of a social presence around what your actual purpose is. Right now in the market, we're seeing a huge disconnect from where you are and where you want to be. And that disconnect is not being connected to your purpose. Hence, REConnect, Real Estate Connect was born. So there's my little plug for that. I want to jump back in. So Jeff then goes on to talk about always getting your fuel for energy in order. This is such a small thing, but he mentions, like, if you like creamer in your coffee and you wake up in the morning and there's no creamer, you're not going to want to drink that coffee. So now you're creating an excuse. We want to eliminate all excuses so that you can operate at the best that you can in the morning and actually execute the schedule you build. And then he asked a question of what holds you back from being disciplined with your time. And this is a pretty simple answer, and it is not knowing what you want. And so take advantage of that free class, that free coaching session with us. We'll help you realize what you want. We're going to help you connect to that and make sure that you are operating within the frame of that purpose and that passion. Then he went ahead and, like I said, he broke down his schedule for during the week. Way too much stuff to talk about. Is that he's going to start prospecting at 8 a.m. He says, assume the position at 7:59 so that as soon as that clock turns to 8, he's ready to click dial and get that process started of prospecting. So he's really committing that full amount of time that he separates for prospecting to prospecting. Kate Simon then took the stage. She is the first ever coach for GloverU. Great speaker, lots of solid information, talks about breaking down your numbers and how to find your dollar per hour for prospecting. So this is another way to go ahead and find it. The number is going to shock you. I know it shocked me when I went through it, and I recognized, like, I just did not do enough last year. Like 2023 for me was a down year, like it was for most, but I allowed the market to dictate a lot of what of my actions were, and I just kind of took what came in. I wasn't really actively seeking out as much as I should. My number last year was $450 per hour. And so, like, looking at that in a perspective is, like, how many times did I let any prospecting time just get interrupted because I was just taking what was coming in? And nobody paid me, $225 for my half an hour. And so it's a really interesting way to look at it. Like, that number for somebody else in the crowd who, was a real estate agent that had some polished skills, her dollar per hour was between 900 and 1800, depending on which way you did the math for, up to $1,800 an hour. And so, no one's going to submit to an interjection into that when you look at your hour costing $1,800, right? You're not going to allow somebody to come in just steal 5 minutes of your time with the water cooler when you understand that didn't set time specifically for the prospecting. And so that's obviously something I'm sure you can figure out what's changing in 2024 for me. She answered a ton of questions about what agents should be tracking and how to track them. More to come on that, including possibly an app that may help you track for REConnect. We'll be setting up a meeting with them to see if we can develop the system and scale it for REConnect, because right now it's really built out for brokerages only. And so as a mortgage contact, I gave them my card, and we're going to set up a time. And I may be on the forefront of their mortgage operation and testing for that as well. The most interesting stats I saw were the ratios to strive for. So these are what they call their GloverU gold standards of ratios of what they need to convert on. And so generally, if you're needing a faster closing or faster results, you're going to stay and hang towards the top of this list. So FSBO's was 5 contacts per appointment. Expireds was 10 contacts per appointment. Open house is 15 per appointment. Circle of impact, or SOI as you guys would call it, 20 to 1. Paid internet leads, 25 to 1. Door knocking and database touches, 50 to 1. Drip campaigns and mailers were 250 to unique touches to 1. And that was extremely interesting to see those numbers laid out like that. Again, so if you're needing a faster closing, FSBOs and expireds are the way to go. Calling those, because you're able to fight through them. Now, you're probably not going to see those numbers if you just pick up the phone. Dry air in Arizona is crushing me right now. And then something else she said is to be able to track better. Ask those people how they found you. Build out a list of things and have them, on your intake form or intake process. Ask them to select all that apply. That'll help you kind of define where they came from and where they actually came from, not where you think they came from. Now, the real reason you're all watching, you guys saw that Damon John was there today, which was really, really cool to interact with him. And I'm actually, I've got a video coming out later that's in editing right now that talks about his sobriety journey and why he got sober. And it's based around changing a goal of weight loss, which is really interesting. But the way he starts to look at it is really interesting. And so, look forward to that video coming out as well. Obviously, during his time, I was extremely busy taking notes. And so I've got like half notes that, because he was talking so fast, as Damon does. And so, had to kind of fill in the gaps here. But to start the presentation, he kind of just told his story. The one thing that stuck out to me during that was that Fubo was almost bankrupt 3 times. And the most recent was in 1992. And his mom had mortgaged their house to help him get through. And there just was no more money to be had. And his mom eventually ended up creating an ad in a newspaper and posting that they had $1 million in order and needed financing, Samsung, and they wanted him to sell $5 million in product, and he ended up selling $30 million in a much shorter time frame than they asked him to. And then in 1997, or by 1997, he sold $400 million worth of product in the year 1997, which is almost exactly 5 years after he was almost bankrupt for the most recent time in 92. So a short amount of time frame, big amount of production, big amount of turnout, and it's just about him going all in. I have a title here, moving on past his story. I have a title here called 5 Main Points, and it actually ended up being 7, it looks like. So bear with me on that. But find the people around the people at the top instead of going directly to the people at the top. The support people are their way in. That's what he was talking about with Fubu. He didn't target, the influencers in the hip hop market. He targeted the people around them. So what did he do? He made 3X, 4X, 5X shirts because those were the people that were around those people. Big guys, right? Big guys that don't have a lot of shopping options. And so he was able to make these big shirts for them, and they would wear them, 4 to 7 times a month instead of just one time and throwing it out, because they didn't have access to as many clothes. And so that's what got the brand in front of the people. And of course, those guys are also bouncers at the club, and they're standing outside wearing Fubu, pushing it out to everybody else. So that was kind of how he found his way in Fubu. And he talked about influencing the influencer. And then one of the funniest things they said, or one of the funnier things he said was focus on the grand influencers, which is the older people. And the reason he said that is because old people give no fucks. And that's a direct quote. And he basically said that, if they don't care, they're going to promote you if they like you. And if they don't, they're going to tell people about it. So if you have a good product and a good opportunity to get in front of some older people that can promote you, that's a great way to get out into the world, because they're going to tell everybody. Jeff asked him what he would do differently if he were to start Fubu over again today. And he said basically nothing. But he, one of the things that he said is he just wanted to get more financial intelligence earlier. And he said that because of the multiple times where he almost went bankrupt and all of the stuff that he went through. But it's just really just like that's a core driver for him now. And he recently wrote a book for children about financial intelligence and all that stuff too. So that was something that rang through his entire presentation. The model that he would run would be the Avon model of, like getting people involved and giving them, $1,500 worth of product for $500 and getting them out there promoting it for him instead of him having to do all of the marketing and pushing it that way. He basically did that with what he did with Fubu, just obviously at a different type of model. Like there was no payment involved for the people wearing it and that kind of thing. But that's how he would build it, is the Avon model. And then he also talked about bartering for value. So instead of just bringing money to someone and saying, hey, I'll pay you to do a job for me, can you connect them with someone else that can help them? The guy at the t-shirt shop, can you connect him to the store? Connect him to the store, get more value for him. It may cost you more in the long run because you're going to be kind of on the outside of that deal, but you're also going to be able to be included. And so he said that was a big thing, like focus on bartering value, bring something to someone so that they can give you value in return and you both win. Amortizing your value and selling it that way. This was by far the thing that stuck out to me the most, because we see such a continuous message in real estate of showing off and ego and I'm the shit, I'll get you a deal, that mentality. And that's a direct quote as well. He said, don't sell that way. It needs to be that I will buy you some of my time. And so instead of presentify this number and sell it like that, like, is it going to take you 10 hours? Okay, well, if I'm making $450 an hour and I give 10 hours of my time to collect data for you, that's $4,500 worth of value. So you can now sell it like, hey, I'm going to give you $4,500 of my time as a presentation. So it's just a different way of looking at it, but it was so key for me that bringing that mentality into a sales model and just flipping the script and saying, I'm going to buy you some of my time. It was so cool to kind of put that into perspective in my head. Product doesn't matter. So on Shark Tank, he talks about they don't invest really in the products. They don't care. There's no dumb product. I mean, he mentions that the Snuggie is literally just a blanket with holes, and it's all about investing in the person, and the way that person tells their story is the most important piece for them. So if that story includes struggle and strife and really going all in, and they can see that, they're going to invest in that person. And so with the way that I can apply this to real estate is tell your story more. If you're all in, like, you got to be able to communicate that to your clients, to your fellow agents, everything, so open up the curtain, let us see behind it. Let us see why you're all in, not just hey, I'm at this pretty house and you should see this pretty house. Build more of a relationship with your clients through the video aspect. His biggest aha in marketing, he kind of balked at this one, but what he said is how you communicate is most important. He talked about telling the story, and then he also mentioned, that there's only two ways to get a customer. You either acquire a new customer, or you upsell a current customer, or you get them to buy more. And the acquiring piece is 20 times harder than the upselling or buying more piece. And so he said, let's focus on what you have and being able to build the connections that you already have and invest the money there instead of chasing the shiny object that's going to get you a new lead. Now, if your circle's small, then obviously you have some work to do to build that circle and get it bigger. But investing in what you already have is super important.